All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started then. So what I wanted to do today is talk about changes to the national network of libraries of medicine, as well as updating you on our new GMR office, that's the Greater Midwest Region office, and talk a little bit about our plans for the future, kind of what we had outlined in our proposal and where we're planning to go. I'm going to go ahead and just move us on. If you guys have questions as we go forward, I've planned a couple of spots in the presentation to ask questions. You can always leave us a question in the chat box too, and we'll try to respond to all of those as they come in. All right, so here's what's going on, guys. There was feedback that was solicited from the regional medical libraries during the 2013, during the mid-contract site visits, and in 2014 there was also a request for information. So the national network collected information from all of the regional medical libraries, and some of the feedback included a need for more flexibility with both staffing and allocating funds, fewer contract restrictions. Here we're talking about performance period for awards. So for example, money was set year by year and there wasn't that possibility to do multi-year awards. The regional medical libraries, some of the feedback received was that they were required to do too much, address too many topics, too many audiences, and also a need to coordinate more, to coordinate nationally, and to reduce duplication and increase efficiency. And by efficiency, we're talking about not duplicating effort across the nation. So that's what drove the changes. And I'm going to summarize some of the changes for you just to kind of give you a heads up of what's coming. So one of the biggest changes was this change in funding mechanisms. In the past, the funding mechanism was a contract, and now it's a cooperative agreement or a grant. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in detail going forward here. There were also services that were coordinated nationally through network offices. For example, you probably heard a little bit about the DocLine Coordinating Office and how DocLine support and training is now coordinated through that office. Also, simplifying the RML services to just 3 main cores. One of those cores is administrative, another is support access to biomedical and health information, and the third is outreach and education. Also, the implementation of a steering committee, and the emphasis here is to improve transparency and collaboration, evaluation, and outcomes. The steering committee was formed, in fact the charter was just signed at the MLA meeting last week, so I've got some more information about that to share as well. Also, the National Network Office has become the National Network Coordinating Office. So if you're keeping track of acronyms, it's now the NNCO. So this coordinating office is going to be working closely with RMLs and actually collaborating on programs instead of just having RMLs report to them about what they did. Also, our RMLs are going to serve or have representation on this National Network Steering Committee as well. Another thing that I should let you guys know about is that membership levels for the network is all going to be at the same level now. So in the past we had affiliate and full members. Now we just have members. So that's something to be aware of, and that information will be changing on our website within the next couple weeks. Along with the other RMLs, we're not really sure what to put yet, but we're getting there. So kind of the nitty-gritty here. I want to tell you the details between basically this contract funding mechanism and the cooperative agreement or grant funding mechanism. So one of these big changes has to do with indirect costs or overhead. So back when this was a contract, some regional medical libraries didn't pay overhead on subawards. So basically some of the RMLs were able to write their subawards so that they did not pay any sort of overhead. Now with the cooperative agreements or the grants, all RMLs are required to pay overhead on subawards unless your institution waives the overhead. So I know most of us don't have any control over that. Of course, we encourage institutions to waive overhead, but they can claim it. We can't write the award so that they can't have overhead. So overhead for subaward is paid in accordance with your institution's non-research negotiated rate. If your institution doesn't have a non-research negotiated rate, that flat rate is going to be 10%. Less restricted with funding, so contracts again had 1-year periods. And during that 1-year period, there was a defined list of tasks and funding that was required. With the cooperative agreement, they allow for some carryover. So we're able to have contracts that are multi-year. I shouldn't say contracts, some awards that are multi-year. Also, we have the ability to add supplements from the National Library of Medicine, NIH, or other federal agencies. So that's a change as well. A couple more things that you should be aware of is types of subawards. So contracts required RMLs to have specific subawards. A lot of these are going to sound familiar to you, like technology improvement, professional development, and so on. With the new cooperative agreements, we have more flexibility with these subawards. We can call them different things. We can do whatever we want. So that has given us some flexibility. Reporting, I think everyone's going to love this. In the past, you were required to submit quarterly and annual reports for awards. Now, we're only required to submit one annual report. So that's exciting for all of us. A little update on national offices. As I mentioned, these offices were created to nationalize services, so coordinate services for the whole nation. Each of them is headed by a project lead. Some of these are new. There's 2 new offices. Again, one is that Dockline Coordination Office, which you received information about already. Another is the Public Health Coordination Office, or the NPHCO. Some of the other offices changed names. So if you're into acronyms, you'll want to pay attention to this. The Web Services and Technology Operations Center is now the NNLM Web Services Office, or the NWSO. The Outreach Evaluation Resource Center is now the NNLM Evaluation Office, or NEO as we're calling it. The NLM Training Center is now the NNLM Training Office, and so on. So there have been some changes in names, but more importantly, there are a couple of new offices. As I mentioned earlier, the RMLs are now focusing on 3 main cores. So all of the tasks, all of the assignments for RMLs center around these 3 cores. One of the cores is administration, so that's going to be effective governance, communication and evaluation, strengthening the regional membership, and of course having a disaster buddy, emergency preparedness. The second core is supporting access to biomedical and health information. So what we're talking about here is strengthening and building network support to support access to biomedical and health information, to support sharing, curating, and annotating biomedical and big data. And the last, of course, is outreach and training. So outreach and training here, again, that's developing, implementing, and evaluating outreach and education programs with a focus on minority and underserved populations and the health professionals that serve them. So some of that's very similar to what we did in the past, but it's been reorganized around these cores. All right, moving forward, I want to give you a little bit of information about the new National Network Steering Committee. So the steering committee has representatives from RMLs from the national offices and the leadership at NNLM. So the leadership at NNLM, or the NNLM Coordinating Office, those folks are now called project scientists. So just something to be aware of. Other people on the steering committee, there's going to be the associate director for each RML, the director for each RML, and also someone to represent each office in the nation. So these folks are making up our steering committee. We just signed the charter, and objectives will be defined throughout the first year. So obviously, you know, the network's moving in kind of a different direction. It's uncharted territory here. As we move forward, we're going to have more objectives being defined. Again, the intent of this steering committee is to improve transparency and collaboration, develop new partnerships, and there's a lot of evaluation. So focusing on outcome-based initiatives. You're going to hear more about this going forward. Also, we're talking about re-envisioning what it means to be a national network. Basically, we're talking about national collaboration. So for example, you know, in the past we've had the Lake Effects webinar coming out of our regional medical library. One collaboration we're working on is a webinar series that's built collaboratively with the other regional medical libraries. So, you know, we haven't released a schedule for our webinars yet. And a big part of that is that we're working on building a collaborative webinar series. So once that's underway, we'll be releasing some more information about it. So again, that's an example of this national collaboration. So a lot of this is new, and again, there's a lot of questions surrounding this because it's just, it's redefining our direction as a network. So I want to pause here for some questions. Are there any questions about this content before we move on? All right then, I want to move forward and talk about our office as the Greater Midwestern region, and I want to introduce you to our team here. So Linda Walton is our director. My name is Elizabeth Cascaden. I'm the associate director here, and we've been scrambling to hire on new staff. So thus far, we've hired our technology and communications librarian. Her name is Darlene Caskey. She formerly worked here at the University of Iowa in the Law Library, and we poached her for our office. Along with her, we've got Jacqueline Leskovic. Many of you remember Jacqueline. You worked with her in the past. She worked at the GMR office when it was located at the University of Illinois in Chicago. We are hiring 2 outreach librarians. One is going to be that consumer outreach librarian. We've got interviews scheduled for this. They're going to be held in the middle of June. At the same time, we're going to be hiring our health professionals outreach librarian, and again, those interviews are scheduled for the middle of June. Unfortunately, it takes a long time to hire folks on at a lot of these larger academic institutions, which I think a lot of you are familiar with. So we're just getting this going as fast as we can, and I can't wait to have some more folks on board because it's been a lot of work for just the little handful of us. Our administrative services coordinator, which is going to be like an office manager position, we're in the middle of interviews for this position right now. So we're hoping to wrap those up and get someone on board shortly. So this is who we are. This is what we look like. I don't have the webcam on, so you can kind of just imagine us. There's information about each of us posted to the blog, The Cornflower. Also, as we hire new folks on, we'll include their information on The Cornflower as well and send out some announcements so you know who these folks are. I wanted to give you guys some information about the Regional Advisory Committee, or the RAC. I've gotten some questions from some of our members, and I wanted to just tell you kind of what we had planned. So basically, we had the old Regional Advisory Committee that we'd like to break down into some stakeholder focus groups. Now, the purpose of the stakeholder focus groups is to provide input, especially during that annual planning time. We envisioned them about 6 to 10, definitely under a dozen folks in each of these groups. The 3 groups we have planned for are the health sciences librarians, the health professionals, and consumer health care. We're hoping to get folks to represent our membership in each of these groups. Now, we plan on the stakeholder focus groups to really only meet about once annually. Right now, I'm looking for people who are interested in being a part of these. So if you are, I'd like you to contact us. We do have information at the end as far as our email address, our phone number. You can always contact me directly as well. Along with this, we've organized some work groups. So we've got 4 work groups that we're hoping to put together here. One of them is a network membership work group. One is communications. One is health professional outreach. And another is consumer outreach. Again, a lot of these groups will be called on to meet as necessary. For example, some of the work groups will be scoring proposals for our awards. I'm thinking about 6 to 10 people, hopefully under a dozen, for each of these work groups as well. I'd really like to recruit volunteers to represent our region. I'd like to see a diversity in our members. So for example, some folks from academic libraries, some from hospital libraries, and so on. If you are interested at all, please contact me. Also, a couple of you have come forward and said, oh, I used to do this for the RAC, or I used to do that. Thank you so much. If there's something that you used to do, a discrete position for the Regional Advisory Council or Committee, just let me know, because there's a couple things that I don't know about that were going on, and I'd love it if you share that information with me. Also remember, as an incentive, if you're working on your AHIP, Academy points are eligible for serving in these committees. So if that's something you're working on and you need a little bit of incentive, that might be what you're looking for. I also wanted to share a little information about our resource libraries and outreach libraries. And more than anything, this is just kind of a review for you guys. So our resource libraries focus primarily on resource sharing, DocLine. There aren't really there aren't any plans to change the resource libraries. Right now in our region we have 32 resource libraries. Most of those, basically the outreach libraries, are self-selected from existing resource libraries. So you see right now we've got 32 resource libraries. Of those, 15 are outreach libraries. The outreach libraries model will have to be assessed during year one. Reason being, the NNCO will no longer offer non-competitive awards. So in the past, we gave stipends to these outreach libraries to do outreach for us. We can no longer do that the way we've done in the past, which is just hand out $5,000 for these. I'm working with the outreach libraries right now. We're going to work on looking at this model again and making some changes going forward. We're going to do that with our outreach libraries, and we're hoping to come up with a new model beginning in year two. Now that said, this first year, we're going to hand out the stipends as usual. I worked with the NNCO on justification for this and just explained, hey, this is a new model for us. It's going to take us some time to really kind of assess this and move forward. If you haven't already seen our proposal, it is available on our website. It's focused around 10 core aims, and I just wanted to paraphrase for you guys just briefly here. So the first aim is establishing a regional office, and that's what we're working on right now. The second is to improve communications between NNLM and the National Library of Medicine and our network members in the community. The third is to expand and manage the network to continue to meet the NNLM's mission through a distributed network. The fourth is to strengthen the network National Emergency Preparedness Response Plan. The fifth is to increase the number of network members actively participating in NLM programs and services. The sixth is to provide a data management education center for network members, and we've got some great information about that in our proposal as well. The seventh is to implement outreach and educational programs with a focus on underserved health communities and health professionals that work in those communities. And then the eighth is to ensure that network members have the opportunity to keep current on health sciences information topics and NLM resources. The next is to increase the number of public health professionals who have skill in accessing and searching health information through online educational opportunities. And the last is to improve consumers' understanding of quality health information resources available. If you want to see what those are in their true technical language, take a look at our website and you can pull up our full 140-page proposal there as well. Also, guys, we have a timeline. So I'm not sure what timelines have been shared in the past, but we have this openly accessible on our website. This kind of shows us what our goals are for each year in the 5 years. Some of the first year goals, for example, include hiring staff, so we're working on that, identifying members for stakeholder focus groups and work groups, and then a lot of evaluation and assessment of programs. So for example, this first year we'd like to do an assessment of communication in our region. I'd like to know which of these communication channels are working for you guys. What's working, what's not? What suggestions do you have for improving communication? Also, we're going to do an assessment of our membership and see which groups we can reach out to that are not currently members. We also want to take a look at our outreach programs. For example, the library outreach program, and see what changes we need to make. Basically, this first year is a great time for us to assess and evaluate and gather some data. And then we would like to update the emergency preparedness plan this year. So we do have a full timeline available online as well, and I will share that link in just a second, Yasmin. So funding. I've heard from a bunch of our network members who are asking, like, where's the funding? Where's the information on, calls for proposals? This has been delayed by the NNCO, and the reason it was delayed is this funding change. So we went from the contracts to the cooperative agreements, and along with this was a change in the requirements, a change in the language for these. We just got information about this yesterday, so we finally got the language we need to move forward. Now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and update this information on our website. The funding we're offering each year is an Outreach to Health Professionals Award, which is up to $20,000, an Outreach to Consumers Award, up to $10,000. We've got the Technology Awareness Awards. We've got 2 of those annually for $5,000 each. We've got 1 annual Emergency Preparedness Award for up to $10,000, and then 5 professional development awards for up to $1,000 each. Now, I'm working on the language for the website right now. I'm hoping to get that up next week. Once it's up, I'm going to send out information so you guys know where to go and where to access that. The National Network of Library of Medicine's Web Services Office, again, if you're keeping track, this acronym is NWSO, is working on making a database available of all projects funded. Not just funded in our region either, but funded in all regions. This is going to be useful if you're looking for ideas. So if you're looking for ideas of programs, this is a great place to go ahead and search, browse what everyone else has done in the past. All right, again, folks, that's a lot of information. What I want to know is what your questions are. I want to answer as many of those as I can today. I want to know what concerns you have. I want to know what input you want to give us. And again, I want to know what support you need from us. I want to thank our colleagues at the Chicago office for making this such a smooth transition. They were great about sharing information, about helping us get onboarded, especially with the limited resources we have now. Speaking of limited resources, we have had a heck of a time getting WebEx set up at our institution. So WebEx is actually provided to us through the network office, and we have not been able to get it set up. Just today, we've made some progress in getting that set up, so we'll be able to use WebEx in the future. So in the meantime, we had been using a different software program, which is this GoToMeeting. We won't be using this in the future. This was just something we had to put together because we haven't been able to get it set up. I want to thank you all for your patience during this transition. I've had so many great network members give me information about what they were doing, and just show a lot of patience, so that was fantastic. I'm going to take a look and see what questions you have now and see what I can answer. All right, looks like Jacqueline provided the link to the proposal. Barbara, you asked about the work groups, expanding on what each work group would focus on. So, for example, there's a communications work group in the works here. When we work on that communications assessment, I would use those folks on that group to help us plan the assessment and help us come up with ideas for distributing it. Does that make sense? That's the question. They can be our focus group for testing questions. Oh, hang on, guys. I can afford that now. The health professionals outreach work group, for example, would help us score proposals. So those would be the folks that would take a look at our incoming proposals and use our scoring criteria for them. All right, so Bethany said, you've had a speaker from the GMR come to your library group and teach free classes. Is this something that will be offered still? Yes, we still will be offering courses through the GMR, and we'd still be sending those folks out to your groups. What would be covered on the Professional Development Awards section? The Professional Development Awards section is often used for going to meetings, for example. If you wanted to attend the chapter meeting and you didn't have the funds to do so, that would be something you could apply for. Or a special class, a CE class, for example. Is there a technology issues work group? Or which one would that be a part of? You know, we hadn't planned on a technology issues work group. That's something we can definitely do going forward. Again, remember, our proposal is kind of a framework. It's basically a framework that we can work from. Right now, we have a technology and communications librarian on board. She would be our go-to for technology issues. However, if there was a need to form a work group on this, that's definitely something we could do in the future, Don. So Eleanor asked about the health professionals proposal for what specifically. Not familiar with grants and proposals. That's okay. A lot of us aren't. If you were applying for something like the health professionals proposal, this could be some sort of partnership that you had developed with, for example, social workers in your region. I've got some examples for this that I can send you, Eleanor, and I mentioned that database that we're working on as well. That database is going to be a great resource for getting examples for days. It's going to list everything that had been funded in the past from all of the regions, so you can get some ideas of some of the health professionals partnership projects that were funded in the past. So Barbara asked about state liaisons. Once we have the rest of our staff on board, we do plan to have state liaisons. Right now, it's just Darlene and Jacqueline and I trying to serve the whole region. Once we do have everyone on board, we will have state liaisons, and that will be listed on our website as well. We should have probably about 2 states assigned to each person. Depends on population density, but that information will be available, and those folks will be disseminating information to each state as well. So Heidi had asked about promotional items, bookmarks, pens. NLM doesn't support that anymore, so we're no longer allowed to create promotional items. We do have some old items in boxes. I can take a look and see what we've got. I do think we still have some pens, so I can dig that up and take a look.
It was because of the budget cuts.
And that was, yeah, that was because of the budget cuts. Will the current rack be dissolved?
Yes.
Yes, it will. And it says we did, so Don's pointing out that we did have state rack representatives as well. So University of Chicago, you asked about the amount of award dollars available and if that's changed at all. It has changed, and what we have set up on that last slide will be on the website next week. And again, that's 20 grand for the Outreach to Health Professionals Award, 10 grand to consumers, and so on. Was that a decrease from the past? I'm not sure. You know, I would have to go back and take a look and see what those award levels were in the past. And I think that the awards themselves were a little bit different as well. So I can definitely take a look at that and compare. It is variable, so basically each 5-year grant period, we set up those awards for that 5-year period, if that makes sense. And then those are set for that 5-year period. And then, you know, were we to write another proposal in the future, we would set those award levels again. All right, Molly. So Molly says her library has been interested in the possibility of a working group to spearhead consortial buying and working with vendors. For example, to buy a few journal purchases regionally. That's something you might be interested, or which working group would work at those issues. Molly, let me contact you offline and get some more information from you about this and see if that's something that can be rolled into one of our work groups that we had planned here. Don, you have a good question. So basically in the past, you were a RAC representative. So as part of your responsibility, you communicated to the OHSLA group in Ohio to share information about what's going on. So again, with the RAC being dissolved, how is this information shared to states? That's something we're going to have to work out. That's something we're just going to have to work out. It could be a matter of us assigning
We can still have state reps.
Yeah, I mean, we'll find a way to have state reps. I need to think about this a little bit. It could be a matter of just having a group of state reps, or we could work out and see if members in some of these working groups could serve as state reps, if that makes sense. All right, those of you that are interested in consortial purchasing, sounds like there's a few people who are interested. I'm going to contact you guys as a group and get some more information from you. And Don, I'm going to contact you as well and get some information about your work with OHSLA. And we can talk a little bit, you and I, about how to set up some state representatives and see if you'd still be interested. Are there any other questions, guys? I have you guys unmuted, so feel free to speak up.
How long it takes for it to start? Mm-hmm. Need to do something about this. How slow it is.
Are there any other questions, guys? All right, so Barbara's concerned as well about state reps that used to exist in the RAC.
So we can, that can be one of our, that can be our health profession or health sciences.
Yeah, that's.
We can work with that group. We can morph into one of our advisors.
Yeah, one of Linda's suggestions was that we could actually use that health professionals group, use state representatives from that group.
Health sciences librarians group.
Yep, I'm sorry, the health sciences librarian group. So again, we had those three focus groups. One of them was comprised of health sciences librarians, and we were looking at about a dozen members for that. So we've got 10 states. Perhaps we could choose state reps from that group. And then Dawn, if you were interested in being in that group as well, let me know.
Yes. Yeah.
And Heidi asked about the recording for the slides. So again, we've had this issue with not having WebEx set up. Basically, when we upload the presentation, it has to have closed captioning as one of the requirements to the network office. So if we're able to add closed captioning, which I think we can, we're going to upload it to our YouTube site and we're going to send that out. I'm going to send out the slides right away after this meeting so that everyone can get that. I can also send out the slides and the recording from the Outreach Librarians meeting on May 24th. And again, the holdup with the recording is honestly that we need to get the closed captioning done. Because we haven't had the support for the office through WebEx and we haven't been able to get the closed captioner online, we're basically doing the closed captioning ourselves, which means we have to have someone sit down and actually type out every word spoken at those. So it's just taking a little bit longer. I'm hoping we can get those out by the end of maybe next week, maybe sometime within the next 2 weeks. And Don, you had mentioned that a lot of the current RAC members might be interested in staying because they were told that there was a 2-year term. You know, I could definitely reach out to those folks and see if they're interested in volunteering to be on our Health Sciences Librarians focus group. All right, sounds like a couple of you who are state representatives in the past are interested in staying. How about I email you guys, the whole group of you, and find out which ones are interested in volunteering to remain a part of this, and we'll put you guys on the Health Sciences Librarians focus group. Does that sound good? All right, you're welcome, Barbara. Just as another note too, folks, currently we only had one webinar on our account, and basically it was this one just to update you on where we're at as far as our office and talk through some of these features of the network. We'd like to have a schedule of webinars for the rest of the year, and the holdup on that is that we're working on putting together a collaborative webinar series. So I'm hoping that once we can get that on board, I can release the schedule and you'll see what's coming up. Right now we have a planning meeting tomorrow morning for that. We're going to sit down with representatives from the other regional medical libraries and talk about some topics, some ideas for doing a collaborative webinar. Pat, you mentioned the email list, and I'm so glad you did. We migrated listservs from Chicago. So those were migrated to the University of Iowa. And what we did before we migrated is we got the list of everyone on that email list, and we added them to the new listserv. So we thought, hey, we're okay. But I've heard from a few people now who are not getting our email addresses. So if you are not getting the emails, and it sounds like you aren't, we can double check. And double check with your coworkers as well. Ask your colleagues if they're getting this information, because we can definitely get you signed up. Yes, absolutely. So we do have an email for our office listed on our website. You can go ahead and just email our office. Darlene will get you added to the listserv. All right, folks, I'm going to work on getting this recorded, recording captioned. We'll work on getting this uploaded. If you have other questions, please let us know. All of our information is on the GMR website, and Jacqueline went ahead and added the GMR email address. This is just our general office email address. If you have questions, please send them here, and we'll respond to you as soon as possible. Once we have this recording available, I'll send it out to everyone, and I can send out the slides right away today so you've got that information. I know it's a ton of information, especially the network stuff can be a little bit confusing. Let me know if you have questions. I'd be happy to chat with you via email, over the phone, what have you. Just give me your information. Okay. Now, going forward, hopefully we'll be using the real tool, WebEx, in the future to set up webinars and to set up some of these update meetings. So stay tuned for those as well. Please do ask your colleagues if they're getting information from us via the listserv. And if they're not, please have them contact us. We'll get them on the listserv as soon as possible. We also share information through the blog, of course, through Facebook, through Twitter, and so on. But I know in health sciences we're pretty invested in our listservs. All right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Looks like there's one more question here about Ohio again. That is interesting. Thanks for sharing that, Charlotte. So I did not realize that in Ohio, the state representatives were voted in. So that is something to consider.
And in Iowa, it's in the bylaws. So we'll get it straightened out.
Yeah. You probably heard Lynn in the background there. We will get that straightened out. It does seem to vary state by state. And you know what? I'll reach out to you folks and get some information from you as well. And then maybe, you know, collaborating with you, we can figure out who was voted in, who was written in by the bylaws, and so on, and get that organized. Perfect, Dawn. Yes, please do send that to me. We'll take a look. One way or another, we'll get it straightened out. But this is good to know, so thank you for sharing. All right, folks, if there aren't any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'll be sending out an email right away with these slides. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll try to follow up with you just as soon as possible. Thanks again for your patience, especially with our kind of ad hoc web conferencing software here, and I'm looking forward to running into all of you sometime within the next couple of years.